The view presented on this broadcast does not necessarily represent that of Rise Multiversity or its individual members.
Welcome to today's show. I'm Sienna Lea, co-founder of Rise Multiversity. Rise is a global education and research project created in response to the challenge of reclaiming what is sacred with our mother planet. Rise is our response to the call for global metamorphosis. I'm here today with another founding member of Rise Multiversity, Kelly Lachey, author, counselor, shaman, and our special guest, activist and incredibly brave woman, Sabine McNeill, who is central to supporting the Whistleblower kids of Hampstead, London. As many of you already know, these two children stepped forward to expose the pedophilia, satanic, sexual ritual abuse ring that involves police, teachers, priests, and elites at the highest level of government. She's paid a huge price for this too. We'll get into it in a moment. We know this goes very, very deep. We know that we have the power to break the spell and create responsive action to stop this unspeakable horror against the innocent. It has been going on for a very, very, very long time. Now it is ours to take the steps to catalyze the world awareness and soul alchemy to end it. Welcome to the show, Kelly and Sabine.
Thank you very much indeed, Sienna.
I'm going to turn this over to Kelly Lachey for the initial impulse, where to take this. Kelly, how did you get involved in this, and what is your, why has this been so urgent? You're the key organizer of this event, so we might start there.
Well, I know firsthand of what it's like to be in the hands of the Illuminati satanic ritual abusers. My mother and I were abducted when I was 4.5, and so I've been there. I've seen it firsthand. I understand it well. I witnessed what they did to my mother, and their intention was to sacrifice me. And so my family and I have been on the run ever since. And now is the time for the truth to come out. And it's difficult to hear. It is. I understand that. But this is why we're doing this, is because the secrecy is what perpetuates it. And taking the courage to be aware of the extreme heinousness of it, as well as the vastness. We're talking about in the millions. The numbers are much larger than the statistics reveal. And so I wanted Sabine to explain the intricacies of the case with the Hampstead case, but she knows of many other cases as well. And so Sabine, I'd like for you to start with the Hampstead case and then give us the case in Lithuania and the Nigerian mother, and just give us like an overview of how the system is just working against this coming out. Let's just start with the Hampstead case.
Yeah, the Hampstead case is definitely the worst of all of the cases I've ever been dealing with. First, in terms of numbers of children involved, around 20 at least, and number of adults, at least 70 abusers. And the worst, because I had never heard actual satanic ritual abuse being described so graphically by the 8-year-old boy who said, Papa kills babies. Oh, and Papa is the boss of this strange culture, as he says so sweetly. The mother contacted me in November and had emailed me some information before I met her, but only when I really saw her children on video was it obvious what had happened and what needs to be done, because she had already been lumbered with oodles of files, and that's part of the heinousness, as you call it. The snatch takes place. The children were taken away And she had actually thought that she would do the right thing by reporting the crime of the father as the leader of the cult. And she was hoping that she would save the other 20 children. After all, she knew them. She knew the children. She knew some of the children, some of the parents that her kids go to school. Because that was the horrendous thing. The children say it's happening at their school. They actually had only contact with their father every other Saturday. But on video, the girl says, my mom, he sees us every single day at school where they all do sex to us. And every Wednesday is big sex day. So you have to imagine that these two kids were threatened by their father to be killed if ever they were talking. It took the mother's partner to actually get it out of them and to break that deal that they had with their father. The daughter in particular suffered from having to do that. There's one video where the boy begs her to tell the truth and say, look, he's not here now, and so you talk. But the children must have gone through absolute horror, both as victims but also as witnesses. They describe not the killing of babies, but how the father held their hands and basically helped them to kill babies, to drink blood, to eat baby flesh. I mean, that on one end, but besides the actual sexual abuse and the distinguishing marks that they talk about, those adults, they made drawings, the plastic willies, the different places that were used. It is very horrendous. So people have a very hard time to imagine it and thus to believe it. But I have absolutely no doubt there is no reason not to believe the children. The mother said yes, of course they may lie. Children do lie. They jazz things up. But the core is they accuse their father as the leader of a whole bunch of adults. But the result is the father, in those ridiculous legal proceedings that happen in secrecy, which is unique for the UK, the father was given weekly contact with the children, the mother only fortnightly. The father became part of the proceedings. The father was not investigated. 6 days after the children were taken into care, the police produced some videos with them where they retracted their original accusations. The police did not wait for the results of the medical reports, which confirmed the allegations of the children. 11 days after they had taken the children, they closed the case saying crime not confirmed. So on the 22nd of September, that statement was made, and then on 22nd of December, we managed to put in a judicial review. By that time, we had assisted Ella in 2 meetings. She sacked 2 solicitors and a barrister because she realized that they were not working in her interest. And the judge who made these ridiculous contact orders passed the case on to a higher court, to another judge. And I produced a position statement for that judge for January 26th. And in that position statement, we basically had said, either you return the children or else we expose, because the fear of exposure is obviously very, very prevalent. And that was the beginning of the internet revolution, which has now been poo-pooed so badly by the judge. She produced a judgment which says that everybody who's been involved in this case is either evil or foolish or both. And the internet community consists of about 4 million people who would have seen the videos and in particular and all sorts of information. And that these people would take pleasure in sexual fantasies. Would you believe it? It is so mad. And she publishes this judgment using the mainstream media as well. So we, as the internet community, are not only up against the police that covered it up and the courts that covered it up, but now also the mainstream media That is the summary in a nutshell.
Well, aren't these people directly involved in this sort of activity? I mean, aren't we actually asking the predators to render justice on themselves? And of course,
yes, that's very well put. The children quoted 16 police stations and or constables and named a lot of parents, and that document actually circulated as well. I was accused of having published that, but I didn't. The only thing that I published in quotes, I sent an email to the Home Secretary. I had a link to those videos that privately recorded, 20 short little videos. And I blind copied a blogger who downloaded 3 of those videos. That was the beginning. I don't even know who else downloaded the rest from this link, and I never got an answer from the Home Secretary. And this was to tell her that she would be receiving an email whenever the petition was signed, which I then was gathering, the petition to return the children to their Russian family, because the mother is Russian, her parents are Russian, and the father is British. So yes, the predators are the teachers of the school, are priests of the church next door, and then the children also quote very clearly social workers and the organization called Kafkas, and they are all those who we have identified before in all of these various child snatching cases that may or may end up in forced adoption, which makes the UK unique. You see, the UK is unique in 5 aspects. The first one is the secrecy of the family courts. The second, so there's nobody is invited to attend any hearing, neither the general public nor the media. And parents who complain after their child has been taken, they get gagged. And 2006 already, it was said in Parliament that 200 parents a year are being imprisoned if they break such a gag. And I met quite a few parents like that. This gagging is as horrendous as the secrecy. Then the way that parents and children are treated in contact centers is horrendous. They can't speak their native language. They can't be emotional. They can't tell each other, I love you, I miss you. They get immediately punished. And it's just as horrendous and cruel as one doesn't want to believe until you know somebody to whom it actually happened.
So the secrecy of the court system and the Queen of England herself that backs this up. That's the core root of it.
It is actually, and it was an American, Susan Lindauer, who interviewed me the other day, and she suggested that I should contact the Queen. I haven't done that yet, but I've asked an Australian lady who's been in a similar position to me to do that on my behalf, and I'm sure she will, because she just has more of that perspective how to formulate that kind of thing, and she knows, what we don't really want to know and don't really want to talk about. But there's a blog called The Goldman Experience, where if you search for Filthy Britain, then you will see that and how the royal family is involved as well.
Plenty of proof. And David Icke has exposed, if anyone that's listening to this, look at David Icke, and he has proof, statistics. He spent 25 years of research on this and how it goes right back to the monarchy. And it's in every government, in every country, in every continent. This is not just a localized situation. This is everywhere. It's in your town. It's in every town.
Yes. In fact, the blogger who's began to spread the information, he said he believes it's like a necessity to advance in society.
Sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying. That
you can't advance in society unless you participate in either at least philia, if not satanic activities.
You mean at the higher level of the power brokers?
Yes.
The movie stars, the politicians, the millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires. There's the to hang with that crowd.
Yes.
To get into that, to get the bennies, you have to play the game.
Yes. Yes. You get blackmailed, and you get your perks.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the way it is organized. By various levels, Freemasons seem to play a big role.
Mm-hmm.
But the positions of public authorities are being used and abused, and the laws in England are different, and there's this kind of island consciousness. So the club, the Old Boys Network, the fact that boys go to boarding schools, so they lose their contact with their family, and they have their first sexual contact with other older boys, and they get abused by their teachers, and things perpetuate. And then based on that experience, they get become the Old Boys Network in public positions later. Only explanation, this class system that is so ingrained in the UK and is certainly not existing on the continent where I'm coming from. So
how could this have gone on so very long without getting exposure, any sort of exposure whatsoever, or any sort of resistance? What is it that allows this to perpetuate in this fashion?
Well, I can only put it the other way around. I think thanks to the internet, we do have the possibility of exposure at last.
Yes.
So it could only be perpetuated because, unfortunately, that's the tragedy, that mothers are often too complicit. Mothers don't feel capable of standing up for their children. And it's so deeply patriarchal, this system of men in power positions abusing their power, their physical strength over not only women but also children. That is individual, personal, and institutionalized.
Where are the women standing up for the children? It's incredible. I mean, I've looked very deeply at that in my book, Stealing the Moon, and the dark feminine. I have a lot to say about that, which probably won't be diving into in this discussion. But it feels so important for us because before this interview this morning, like the last 5 hours, I feel like I've been in soup, like in a plasma trance, just getting knocked out, just with the message, don't talk, hide, you'll be safe, keep your mouth shut. But it feels like a spell. It feels like a spell that's over humanity and a spell over women that feel that they have too much to risk to open their mouths. And it's gone on for generation after generation after generation. And I think we need to look at this shadow inside of ourselves for anything to really change. But I also would like to hear, I don't know if you want to go here, Kelly, or you want to go into another era. I would like to hear what happened to the children, the latest update verdict, and what has happened to you, Sabine, as a result of doing the right thing. One of the few women or people on the planet who is doing this, and therefore you're a spokesperson for every human being with a heart on the planet. So I would like to hear the update, if you're up to that.
Well, the update is really the verdict last week on Thursday, which left me in utter shock because I had anticipated a decision about whether the children, whether they would go either to the grandparents, which would have been the best solution, or to the father, which would have been the worst, and or stay in care, which is sort of, well, the medium version, let's say. And instead, there was this publication, i.e. a press release to the big papers, and panic cult dismissed by judge was the headline. And that just, it took me a while to make sense out of the purpose of this exercise. It reminded me of the very first high-profile case, a woman called Vicky Haig, who also had made the mistake of reporting the abuse of the father of her daughter to the social services. As a result, she was imprisoned, and the judge did the same. He published the judgment so that the daughter could be given to the father, the abusive father, and that is the absolute pattern. So we have the pedophilia legitimized by the legal system on individual private cases, if you like, custody cases, as well as institutionalized. And this institutionalization is this terrible case with the whistleblower kids, because even though on one level it's a custody situation between mother and father, but the children had always lived with the mother only. The father only had the right to see twice a month. And then it became public law proceedings, i.e. the authority got involved. They, if you like, grabbed the children to have the decision to be able to make the decision over their fate. And it's all supposed to be in the best interest. It's this hypocrisy that drives me most bananas. And of course, the children are more than traumatized. It's irreparable trauma that they've experienced, because visibly they were first relieved to be able to talk, to get it out at the same time. Especially the girl was very afraid of her father coming around and killing them. And the foster parents, the first set, reported nightmares. Now, or in January, the grandparents visited them, and they saw that and how they were really unhappy and clearly anything but in their best interest. So we have to expect another kind of a decision, but first we are going to appeal, or the mother is going to appeal, and we've secured a legal team at long last. And then there is this judicial review, this High Court judge thought she was completely hyper, super powerful. And there are two women judges actually. So it's not all and only about men versus women, unfortunately. This judge decided that she could also take the judicial review under her belt, or that the police would kind of take cue from her. But the fact is that she didn't take any of the mother's concerns into account, neither the inequality of contact, nor the fact that she had applied for a non-molestation order because she felt her children were seriously at risk, nor this judicial review. So it was just so out of balance. And plus, right at the beginning, the first big act of the High Court judge was to request the police videos, and the mother had them because when she sacked the solicitor, that solicitor gave her these DVDs of videos that the police made. And it is very interesting how they are supposed to achieve best evidence, but clearly were very, very leading, in particular those where the children retracted these allegations, which they then used as one of the reasons for closing the case. So it's very complex, very multifaceted, very multi-leveled, and the internet community is involved at many levels. In my perspective as a computer and scientist, as a computer person and scientist, I feel that the internet cover-up of this whole story is nearly the worst aspect, because it began by YouTube deleting videos, Facebook 3 of my accounts, Google deleting videos of my drive, even though I pay for that service, and this was change.org taking 2 of my petitions down, one with nearly 60,000 supporters.
And to this day, you can't get a Facebook account, I think you said.
Not in my name.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the super powerful corporate and elite interests are involved in this.
Yes.
Control all the system.
Yes.
So they're hoping you're the poster child for don't do anything, see what happened to this woman. Where is it that we have any power? Is there an international tribunal? Is there international court of law? Where can we take this?
Very good question. Very good. took it first
But
of all
also
to Brussels.
about what has happened to you to really get all of this on the table for our audience. I think they also need to hear what has happened to your life as a result of this.
Well, Vicky Haig, when she was in prison, noticed already who are being targeted in the UK. That includes foreigners. Now, it so happens that about 3 years ago, 2 Slovak boys had been taken. And since then, the Slovak government got involved. And I'm in touch with that lady who facilitated that. So she managed to get those 2 boys back, but only after television was involved and after demos had been organized, especially by the grandmother outside the embassy in Bratislava. So that lady organized an international conference in Prague, and I met other international meant European, really. Now, then, at that point, I had already submitted a petition in Brussels to abolish forced adoptions. But forced adoptions, i.e. adoptions against the parents' will, 4% of all of the children who are taken into care. And there are 1,000 of them a month in the UK. 1 every 20 minutes is what Channel 4 publishes. So when I was in Brussels to present this petition, I met a Romanian solicitor, and she said we need an EU court for children. And that's what I feel. All of the existing institutions have failed us because the UN has advocated child rights, but they're not being implemented. And the UK hasn't necessarily signed this optional protocol or that bit. And of course, the EU Convention on Human Rights is being ignored. The Fundamental Charter of Rights is being ignored. So mind the gap between what is the law and what is the reality. So where to take it in practice is terribly difficult because the Human Rights Court in Strasbourg is far too slow, and people say that it's been very infested, if you like, by the wrong judges as well. In April, the Council of Europe, which comprises the parliamentarians from different countries, 47 of them, and Russia is part of that, they will compare the different countries and the services delivered by social services. So at least it's topical, it's a beginning at that level. But that's not going to solve any individual case again. It's a huge dilemma, absolutely huge dilemma. I keep, I keep hoping for breakthroughs, but what shape or form they would come in. I've seen people now suggesting to Cameron he should offer an apology to all of those people who have been forcibly adopted, like in Australia. Australia has been a kind of a model, in quotes. They had a royal commission into New South Wales Police, and the outcome was corruption reform, paedophilia, a major report. And there is a website where abuse survivors can go. So they are ahead of the game. In the UK, they are diddling around with the national inquiry into historic abuse. And I keep writing to everybody, how about this current case? Nobody wants to know.
All right, we're going to have to go to
everybody covers up.
Sabine, one moment. We're going to just have to go to a quick break, and we will be right back in about 5 minutes. This is Sienna Lea, and you're at Rise Multiversity channel.
Are you a person who is awakening to the lies and deceptions of our world?
Is your awareness opening more each day to realities you never dreamed existed?
Are you someone who would benefit from authentic support and real tools to no longer be a victim of the Matrix control grid?
If you answer yes, Rise Multiversity opens its doors to you. Rise Multiversity is an online educational portal founded by George Kavassilis, Kelly Lachey, Perry Mills, Evie Lorgan, Tom Montauk, and Sienna Lea.
Explore and connect with others like yourself who are taking their next steps towards sovereignty.
Visit us at risemultiversity.org to learn more about our live, interactive community events and support groups.
The time of imposed separation is over. We have the power in coming together to live our truth now. Check us out, risemultiversity.org.
Is it possible that we are being manipulated by archetypal dramas that have controlled humanity through the millennia? I am Sienna Lea, and in my creative work of nonfiction, Stealing the Moon, a secret so powerful is revealed that it threatens to expose the unacknowledged history of our dominator culture. Stealing the Moon tells the story of psychologist Dr. Natalie Stern, who voyages into the hidden world of her own shadow self following a nervous breakdown. There she unmasks and transcends the dark energies that she has carried for lifetimes, illuminating a path of freedom for those willing to voyage into their own shadowland and reclaim their authentic energy. For more information or to purchase your copy of the book, please visit stealingthemoon.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Sienna Lea, and you're at Rise Multiversity channel. I'm here today with Kelly Lachey and Sabine McNeill. So, Kelly, we were just talking in the break about what it's going to take to shift this. What is your perspective on what women can do to create some kind of a breakthrough in this?
Yes,
gridlock?
Yeah, we have a lot to cover here. So I'm a healer of ritual abuse, and so I have the inside scoop of so many cases. And I'd like first to start with pedophilia is there's an invisible form of pedophilia that I'll get to, but in the cases that I've worked with, we're talking about like in the Hispanic cultures, in Mexico and even in LA, where the grandfather and the father and the uncles and the brothers all have this agreement that they can rape and have sex with all of the babies, all the baby girls, and as they grow up. So there are vast numbers of girls that have been molested from the age of being a baby all the way up to their late teens by their own fathers, grandfathers, uncles, and brothers. So the secrecy and the silence of that is what perpetuates it, and no one in the family talks about it. The mothers kind of know about it, but they don't know how to protect their children, so there's shame. Now the mothers carry the shame that they didn't protect their daughters. It's a hard thing. It had that much power over entire families, and people need to talk about it. People need to say, this is what happened to me. Sisters need to talk, and the daughters need to talk to their mothers, and let's heal this. It can be healed. The shame has to be addressed. The guilt has to be addressed, and with the men as well. What I'd like to get into, and we need to get to the war crimes as well, because this is so vast, that this is a very big picture that I'd like to get into. And, for right now, I'd like to share about the invisible pedophilia, where fathers regularly, the vast majority of fathers, lust after their daughters. When they reach puberty, they're lusting after their daughters. They have fantasies about it. And the wives don't know it. I know this because I can hear people's thoughts. And so every time I go into a store and I see a father with his daughter, I know what he's thinking. And no one wants to talk about that. It's painful. It's disturbing. But at the same time, it's not you. Like to address any man that does lust after his daughter, it's not you. There's a matrix here that's in charge, that's created a culture. Culture creators in 4D created this culture, the global culture, that the feminine must be had. The sex drive is so strong and so intense, and especially for the younger ones. And so there's shame and guilt in that, and that's why men don't even share that with their own wives, the mothers of their daughters. And I'm saying that it can be healed. And people need to start having conversations about this so that it can be healed. And the guilt and shame can be removed. And because it's just a form of a belief system that the matrix holds on us. It's not you. You're not dirty and evil. It's just this self-perpetuating loop that is so global that is even infiltrated in our thoughts, especially within the masculine. So this has to be addressed. Everyone needs to start having conversations about this, and they're not easy conversations.
Well, it's really the Western attitude to sex and sexuality. I think if couples were more open and genuinely intimate, then hopefully the husbands wouldn't have to feel like they must have sex with their daughters. I mean, it's only because they don't feel whole and complete in their partner's relationship, I would have thought, that this is, or do you think it's just biological?
It's both. It's biological because, going back to Anunnaki, and the sex drive of the male is not balanced. And so there's this sex drive that males have that they don't have any control over it. And so there's that. And that's a good point, Sabine, because also the Matrix imprinted us with, it made it almost impossible to practice real true love and intimacy with one another, to where we're both, the male and the female is satiated and, in deep emotional ways as well as physical ways. And so yes, it is up to the man and the woman to really address what's my part in it. How can we go deeper together? And it's so worth it. This is what has been kept from us. This is what the intention of the invisible hand from the fourth dimension created as this challenge to make it almost impossible to experience love of self, love of God, love for each other, love for our children, love for our husbands and wives. It created this challenge, and this is the challenge that we're all facing.
Yes, I would agree. And it's sex instead of love, and to combine the two is virtually impossible. And then to kind of abuse power, whether it's of the male or whether it's the power of position and career, because let's face it, all of those guys, they are just doing their job and they want to keep their job and keep their pension, and they do things that they are told to do and need to do in order not to lose those perks. And it's just anything but integrity, authenticity, and love. Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's the value system of our cultures, especially, well, it's everywhere. I have a few more things to get into on this. And so what I'm suggesting on the broader scale of things is that, so we allowed them to create our culture, but we are becoming culture creators. And so I expect to see the culture change from this work that we're doing together.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when we realize that we don't want to be prisoners or puppets of the culture, we dive into it and heal the wound of the culture and then create the culture that we really want. And this is, I'm sure, hands down, the cause of suffering, depression, addiction, all of that is just lack of love, lack of self-love, lack of experience of love. This is what we're starving for, love. And so that's what we have to address. Now, I want to go into some of the cases that I've done. One in particular, her mother was in the Illuminati in Florida, and she was kept in a basement and starved by her own mother. And she was emaciated, and her mother would then, she would keep her down there for a week and then cook some yummy food and then put poison in it and then feed this to her. And then she would get sick. And a lot of these practices, they, and the police are in on this too. They bury children alive and then bring them back to life. There's so much out there about this. Where that's part of it, because they're trying to steal the soul is what they're doing. And so they put the child or the adult through such heinous torture and pain, electric shocks and so forth, and then bring them back to life and then do it all over again. And so in this one case with this woman in Florida, she was kept in the basement. The school didn't even notice how emaciated she was, and she had to go to school every day. And then the mother would take a puppy and put it down there in the basement and let her bond with the puppy for a week, and then she had to put the puppy in a burning furnace and burn the puppy alive. And then she also kidnapped a little girl, and then she got to bond with this girl in the basement, and then had to shove the little girl into a burning furnace. And this goes on everywhere where there's a Masonic lodge, in every town. So when I say heinous, I mean heinous, not to mention the sexual abuse. And I mean, all this is just like to break the soul down so that the soul gets sucked out of the human somehow and stuffed in a locker room. And this is, you see, this is defiling the soul. It's personal. It's not just a human thing. It's they want the soul and make it irreversible so they can just keep them in these locker rooms and feed off of them, these beings in the fourth dimension. And so, hang on a second. And it can be healed. That's the thing. Even this woman in Florida was healed. And so, as vast as this seems, there are solutions. And Sabine and I have been working on how do we heal these children. The sodomy, the scars, and the emotional scars can be healed. We have to see it that way, even though there isn't a real healing modality yet. But that's our job, is to actually find ways. Yes, we're going to heal the souls involved as well. And all the souls eventually will be free. That's true. And we do need to see this through a non-dual perspective, because if we get angry and we want to just take it out and you lock them all away. No, the perpetrators were victims, and there needs to be healing on a mass scale for everyone involved. And then to take it a little bit further, so it's in every government. I don't even think that you can be the president of the United States without eating babies. It's the same thing in every government. It's everywhere. And so it's this piece of awareness where when we all rise to the occasion and say, we see it now, and you can't get away with it anymore. It's up to us. We are the culture creators now. We have to say no to this. And now, as far as the war crimes, you just take man and put him into a war situation, and they're getting drugs from the government and taking drugs just to be able, and they're raping for eons. In most of the wars, the men actually rape the babies, rape the little girls, rape the mothers, and kill them all. While we're celebrating our soldiers being abroad, and they're committing war crimes like that. Even American soldiers, soldiers anywhere, you take that kind of testosterone, put them on drugs, and they're shooting people right and left. And why not? Of course, that's what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. Sabine herself has experienced that as a baby. She was sodomized as a baby in Germany when there was a civil war going on there.
Well, it wasn't civil war, it was World War II. But my mum suffered it more than I was. I was only 5 months old. But I think, yes, you can't separate, if you like, the testosterone from war on one level and violence, or the individual testosterone violence or power on the collective one, and the money associated with it. Only money makes wars available, and sex and money on the chakra level are very close together after all. Mm-hmm. And yes, I was in this bombing of Dresden, which was one of the most horrendous experiences, and it was initiated by the UK. So I have this special relationship as a German with the UK, but I normally don't really talk about it. But everybody's aware of the fact that that bombing wasn't necessary, and it was absolutely horrendous. And my mother certainly was seriously traumatized, and she said, I was so traumatized I didn't utter a sound at all, so I was just dumbfounded, I guess. I haven't worked through that, as if you like. I've relived my birth, but I haven't relived that experience. And I'm not sure whether it is relevant as a cultural meme in terms of I spoke recently to a former classmate who said 25% of everybody who's in one way or another experienced World War II is psychologically traumatized. And that's, in fact, that's what makes America unique. You haven't experienced war on your soil. You always just send soldiers abroad. But then I was told by an American there have been more suicides than deaths due to war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's
this madness of war.
Mm-hmm. And the government isn't even taking care of our veterans with all of the post-traumatic disorder that's happening. They're not even addressing it. And but just think for a second, all the shame of all the blood on your hands that they're dealing with, and then what does it take for a man to get to that place where he actually can rape a little baby girl like that in the anus? What is that? That's what we have to ask. There's some kind of force behind it that is the uncontrollable rage against something that they're getting away with, but then they have to live with it, and then there's no healing for it because they want them to continue to do it. One thing I heard recently about
the poppy seed trade in Afghanistan.
The poppy seed growers for opium, they end up being indebted to their drug dealers, and a lot of this is American drug trades for opium, and they end up indebted to the drug dealers. And the trade-off is that they have to hand over their daughters.
Could you say that again? For some reason, the sound ran out mid-sentence.
Okay.
And came back.
Okay. So this is the drug trade in Pakistan. They end up indebted. The poppy seed growers end up indebted to their drug dealers, and so they have to give their daughters up for that debt, so they get to rape and molest little girls, because the need must be so intense that they can't not have it. That's what we're talking about. It's an addiction. And what I was explaining to Sabine earlier with when you're inside of this, inside of the satanic ritual abuse practices, it becomes a drug addiction. It's worse than heroin. They love it, they want it, and they don't want to let it go because they're addicted to the power. It's like a drug. Power is a drug. When you can take over someone like that and then even murder them afterwards, and not to mention that the whole practice of rape after
death.
After death, yeah.
So we're talking about entities, demons, demigods, aliens, interference. There's all kinds of predatory beings that are have some sort of contractual arrangement with the person. The person doesn't even know it. These are people that are largely taken over. That doesn't mean there isn't a personnel aspect that isn't complicit. But
they are remotely controlled, do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You think they're somewhat remotely controlled?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so the wives of the soldiers need to start asking these questions as well. What really goes on when you go off to war?
I think that the power lies in the women that have been down under this and have experienced this kind of trauma and just shut us up for so long, trying to hold on to whatever we had left, whether it's our own life or the life of our children. Or sometimes it's whether we are holding on to our money or a position of power, whatever it is that we're holding on to. And when that curse gets broken and women decide, like you, Sabine, like you, like us here on the call today, but Sabine, you've paid a huge price for this, and I want us to talk about that. When women are willing to stand with the planet, with their heart, at whatever risk and for whatever consequence, only then will this change. We're in a trance, and we're doing it to hide, to stay protected, to go under the radar. And we've forgotten that we have the power, but we are the ones with the power. We are the only ones with the power. We can network, we can support other women, we can refuse things. Do you remember it was the Oresteia, the Greek tragedy where the women decided they just simply would not have sex with the men any longer until they stopped fighting and the war ends instantly. We have always had the power on this planet, and it's time we start using it. Sabine, would you feel at all like sharing the position this has put you in? And this isn't to terrorize us more so that none of us step forward, but to rush to your support. You need funds for starters, and you need other women to hold you, to help you, to research with you, to stand with you.
I have just set up a new platform called Meetup, which will hopefully be the tool with which to enable not us as this little voluntary core that has emerged, which are all women. Well, we have a few male supporters, but the key people are women. So I've set up this meetup called Whistleblower Kids and Hampstead Scandal, a global network. And people are supporters, and everybody can organize events and raise funds as well. I've set up a crowdfunding platform as well. I myself happen to be all right because I happen to have an archangel in my life who has made it possible for me to survive. And of my nephew, who happens not to need it for at least a while. So I find it very strange because I've always been so conscious of what on earth is the purpose of my life. What did my mum rescue me from this horrible bombing in Dresden? And I have developed software methods that are terribly important, but I've never managed to raise the funds for them. So I've done this victim work instead. And now this victim work brings me back to Germany and away from England. So there's the programmer with whom I was supposed to work. He has just come in, or he will be coming in next week, to London from Pennsylvania, and I can't be there. I mean, it's just really bizarre. Dear universe, what on earth are your plans, So, I mean, I just don't know. I only live one day at a time, Sienna.
The universe may be waiting for us to intend what our plans are so that it can create that change with us, standing up with you.
Well, I certainly was kind of amused. I really love computers and what one can do with them. And so when I set up this meetup platform and I was looking for an image for to represent this global network, I found this perfect little planet surrounded by stars and people. I mean, in 1981, way before the internet was born, I had this vision of people and computers protecting our planet. Now I need to put it into action. or we need to put it into action. And Meetup is the platform, and the whistleblower kids, the children, the babes, they are the messengers. People call them a gift for humanity. I'm sure you have talked about indigo kids as well. They are so pure. They're so clearly believable. So I think this stage, or next stage of collaboration, enabled and facilitated across cultures, because the cultural differences are critical as well. I think that is going to be it gives us the right leverage with which to make more of a difference than we've been able to do in the past. Whether you think of Amnesty International or Anonymous or Occupy, all of these kind of strands need to come together now, I feel.
Well, this feels like it's its own strand, in that you can start with the Meetup, and it could be a grassroots empowerment, where people meet and organize, support one another, speak each other's truth, and just move together. We don't know, because it's in the intimacy of the women with their men and in their community. Those women snap out of it and decide they're going to stand. Women are clever. Women can strategize. Women can think together, and they can do it in a nonviolent way. But they can do it in a very, very dynamic way to create huge change. I actually wrote a screenplay about this. It was called The Horrors of Synchronicity. It was about 3 generations of sold-out women, and the children, of course, were getting the brunt of it. And when they finally realized that it was their complicity with the patriarchy that was keeping the whole system in place, first one woman stands out, then another, and they start sharing secrets. Well, where does he go in the afternoon? Well, what does he do? They start being creative. They start having good time with this, and they start moving the energy. If that happened, it'd be game over. Globally, I think it's a new movement. I think it's its own movement.
Mm-hmm. And the men are included. The masculine is we need to heal the relationship between the archetypes so that we have mutual respect and dignity with one another. And, there is a great deal of sacredness in the masculine, equal sacredness that there is in the feminine. And I say it's a movement where the feminine must stand, but the masculine needs to do the same.
Exactly. Men have to become men again and go, wait a minute, what am I doing? There has to be a mass mutiny. We're the ones holding it all together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a violent mutiny. Mm-hmm. It has to be an intelligent mutiny, an emotionally intelligent mutiny, where we stop playing that game and we come up with a better game, and where we bring the juice back, where women can open up in safety to their sexuality, where we realize that we are tired of having our sexuality and all the great, wonderful, delicious parts of life surgically removed and have to live in a matrix that keeps us so dry and flat and left-brained and in the brain and in this mind matrix control grid that we don't want to be there anymore. We reclaim these energies and decide we're going to play the game our way. It's a move. It's changing the energy around. People aren't going to be complicit with this if there's an alternative. I don't mean it's going to happen. Well, who knows? I'm not going to set any limits on it. Who knows? So we're just about at the end of the hour, and I would like to have some closing remarks in terms of what we can do, how we can support you, Sabine. Any closing thoughts from you, Kelly, about what proactive, solution-oriented, loving, but powerful actions we can take to make this not just another tragedy of a woman standing up and getting everything taken out from under her, but actually you can be our new Joan of Arc. Only a whole different way of doing it.
Well, it's funny. I've often thought of myself in that way, I must say. But it's actually, It's this meetup platform that organizes it, because the first thing is to stand up to this judge. The appeal date is April 9th, and I've set up the page, and I want to collect a whole portfolio of witness statements. And I got the comment from a woman in America. She complained about the judge, even though she's American, and said, so much the better, because international exposure is exactly what is needed. So this connectivity, I in my experience, first face-to-face before they get to know each other by the internet. It's better, at least that way, if one wants to work together and achieve something. It can also happen the other way around. So you establish the like-mindedness first, and then you end up meeting, and then you can collaborate. But the collaboration between like-minded men and women is critical. And in terms of advancing this case, it as a model for breaking the mold of other cases. I mean, it would be fabulous, and I think we just need to do it, because there are the mainstream media as a challenge, the internationalization as a challenge, the spiritualization as a challenge, the heart-to-heart communication. And Meetup for the whistleblower kids in Hampstead scandal should do it. So.
All right, so on this YouTube below, we will have that, all those links so that they can join you on there. So that's the first point of organization, is to join that meet and greet channel. Is it a forum? Is it meet and greet?
It's a meetup.com is the platform, and you find it's there to found all sorts of groups all over the world. And I call our group the and Hampstead Scandal.
Say that again. It just managed to break up right on those words. Could you say that one more time, please?
Whistleblower Kids and Hampstead Scandal.
Perfect. Yes. And is there any way we can support you personally?
Well, we can have another conversation like this.
I know, it's wonderful. And this is our video conference center. So I'm seeing that we have some video conferences around this with key people who can network and affect change. And we can support you in this, which I would very much love to do. Kelly, what would you like to say in closing out this opening hour?
I just have gratitude in my heart for the courage of you, Sabine, and you, Sienna. I really feel it changing. I can feel it in my heart. I can feel it in my bones because of everything that we're doing and everything that everyone is going to be doing. As we stand together, we are stronger and we will accomplish our goal. That's why we're all here. We all have the common purpose of seeing this coming to completion.
So that if people are wanting to step forward, come out of the closet with their own story, with exposing things that are happening, remember there are women and children and awakening men all over the planet who are right next to these people all the time. We're the eyes, we're the ears, we're the voice. You know, they can't do it without us. So we start with the meet and greet and start building our research, sharing our what we're getting, what we're seeing, and going from there, offering your suggestions. Those of you hearing this today, you're as valuable as anyone on the planet for what you can offer, what you can contribute. And if any of you wish to contact me or Kelly, you can contact us at risemultiversity@gmail.com. I'll go into the contact us form. If you have anything you'd like to talk to us about, we'll all be working on this together. I don't know exactly our next step here. We're going to have to contemplate it, but we are certainly willing to be a vector point for information, for networking, for support. As well for anyone in these kinds of situations. Both Kelly and I are trained counselors as well. So we're not suggesting a violent revolution. You can feel that. This is a female or from the female side of our soul revolution. It hasn't been on the planet for a very, very, very long time. And it comes forward from all of our hearts and for all of us supporting one another in this. That's what Rise is dedicated to, and that's what we're dedicated to. And that's what I would like to say I'm really dedicated to you, Sabine, for you not to be the lone wolf that gets taken down and trampled, and that they get to hold you up as a role model of, see, you don't want to be doing this, look what happened to her. Mm-hmm. I want to see you be the role model for, look, she stood up and guess what's happening. Yes.
I mean, as when you ask me, how can you support? Because culturally, the American openness is really important, and the American style of, I've gone through humanistic and transpersonal psychology big time. So this whole human potential movement and that spirit, I think, is really important behind this political awakening, if you like. Absolutely. So it's not that we don't only think anonymous occupy kind of that political spectrum, but the feminine is, I think, very much the spiritual one. But the older we get, I feel at least, I become political, whereas aging men seem to become cynical and not doing anything. And I become, the older I get, the more active I get and the more passionate I get.
Bravo. Bravo, the unsinkable Sabine McNeill.
Thank you.
And Sabine, do you want to give us your email address? You want to give out
Sabine
your
at globalnet.co.uk.
Say that again, please. Again, we had a little hard time hearing the first part.
Sabine at globalnet.co.uk.
And people can contact you directly with their stories, their resources, or I would definitely build it into Meetup. I mean, I've got other blogs, the whistleblowerkids.uk. Somebody in America wants to set up, or it has started to set up whistleblowerkids.com. There's a wonderful woman who published in New Zealand who publishes Our New Earth. She publishes a whistleblower news daily now. So as an American woman who published HampsteadChristchurch.com as an extraordinary website, and she's going to help me with Meetup, this Meetup platform big time. So the hardcore is just growing around or forming around me, and so that I don't need to have the sense of being as alone anymore. No, the time of the lone wolf is over. Our power is in coming together in loving support and action and commitment and awakening and awareness. Absolutely. So which of all those websites are if somebody wanted to just get hold of you right now, give them like the last one where that'll open the portal to all those other ones.
Whistleblowerkids.uk.
Whistleblowerkids.uk. Okay.
Exactly.
Kelly, is there anything more before we close?
I think we're closing.
I think you're closing. Okay. So much love for you and respect and honor, Sabine. Thank you. Thank you. You're somebody that's just punched a hole in history, and we're never going to be the same again. It may not look that way. They can act like, oh no, we just dismissed it. No problem. Have a nice day. There's nothing left to do. We won again. Wrong.
We punch a hole in history. I love that. I really do. Thank you.
All right. So everyone, go out there and punch your own hole in history because you can. Bless you.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
It was our pleasure, totally.
Thank you for being with us, Sabine.
Thank you.